Hey guys, I'm George. This is the Obsidian Series 1000D Super Tower PC case. It is the biggest and most feature-rich case Corsair has ever made. So you might ask, why did you guys build this ridiculously huge PC case? It's not just because it's cool, it actually has a purpose. You can actually build 2 full systems inside this case at the same time. So if you were streaming, you can game on one system and capture that video and stream it out on the other system. So in your room, you no longer need 2 full desktops. The primary motherboard tray is compatible with up to an extended ATX motherboard with 8 expansion slots. Some of those slots can be rotated so you can actually have a vertical GPU mount if you want. The secondary motherboard tray is integrated into the PSU shroud and actually includes 2 expansion slots and a mini ITX compatible mount. But don't worry, we didn't forget about you liquid cooling guys. All of our Obsidian series cases have been built with liquid cooling in mind. In front of the case, there's room for 2 480mm radiators. And on top, there's room for a 420mm radiator. In the rear, there's room for 220mm or 140mm fans and a 240mm radiator. One of my favorite features of the Obsidian Series 1000D are the slide-out radiator trays. They make it easier than ever to install fans and radiators to build up a liquid cooling system. The front and top trays come out and actually can be completely replaced. By default, they have 4 120 or 3 140s. And if that weren't enough, you can go to Corsair.com and buy new radiator trays that have 8x120, 4x120, 3x140, or even 2x200mm fan compatibility. So you can customize this thing however you want. The Obsidian Series 1000D comes with a Corsair Commander Pro, which allows full software control of cooling and lighting. Through iCUE, you can control your RGB fans, you can control the logo and the I/O panel RGB, and you can set up fan profiles. So if you want to optimize your system for quiet operation or high performance cooling operations, you can do that with a click of a button. So when you install all the motherboards and all the fans and all the systems and all the stuff that's in this case, you might be thinking, what about my cables? I have no cable routing skills at all. It's gonna be a nightmare. We actually thought about that. We put these French doors on the rear of the case that allow you to conceal your cables. So no matter how bad those cable routing skills you have are, it's gonna look nice and clean. And also behind those French doors are 8 SSD mounts and 5 3.5-inch mechanical drive bays. Our Obsidian series cases are known for their monolithic good looks, and the 1000D is no exception, with a tempered glass front panel and 2 huge swing-out tempered glass doors for easy access. The I/O panel has the connectivity for both systems right on the front of the case, with 4 USB 3.0 and 2 USB 3.1 Type-C connectors to go to both motherboards. The power and reset for System 1 is on top, and the power and reset for System 2 is in the back. And the I/O RGB backlighting is completely controllable through iCUE software.
The Darkbase Pro 900 Rev 2 is available in 3 color options: black, orange and silver. Also, the older model Darkbase 900, the one without the glass window, is still available. But this one hasn't received an upgrade, has got a simpler fan control, no Qi charger and no LEDs. But it's lower priced, of course.
The biggest new feature this new generation has to offer is plain to see the PSU shroud, which completely covers the bottom of the case, and the HDD covers, which make up for a tidier interior. And if you remove the tempered glass window, you will immediately see that it has been shaded at the bottom and the top, as you can see here and here, which nicely covers up parts of the case framing.
As our new build will be placed facing the left side of the wall, we are going to invert its interior, which is a piece of cake due to the astounding flexibility of the case. First, we are going to remove the motherboard tray, which, by the way, can now be used as a bench table. Next, we are detaching the shroud from the HDD tray, remove the PSU cover, unscrew the PSU mount, and detach the HDD tray and remove it. If you are interested in more details on how to invert your case, please watch the dedicated video we are linking to right now.
What looks like a totally butchered case is actually a very comfortable way of installing hardware components such as motherboard, CPU cooler, RAM and the power supply here without being confined in any way.
This way, it's really easy to install a power supply in its mount, connect the cables and put the whole package into place. Next on the agenda is the HDD tray, which can be placed in two ways, depending on whether you want to install a radiator in the front or need more space next to the motherboard. In this case, we choose the latter. By the way, the PSU shroud lets you remove its upper covers so that you can install an additional fan there. Also, you can place another SSD up on the shroud, which will be in full view thanks to the tempered glass window.
Of course, the Darkbase Pro 900 Rev 2 is fully compatible with all common mainboard sizes like eATX, ATX and XL-ATX. If you mounted the mainboard on the tray, you can comfortably install the CPU, the RAM modules or the air cooler. As we decided to go with the water cooling system here, we are going to install the cooler later on inside the case. That's the easier way to do that.
The motherboard tray can be installed in 3 heights as well as completely inverted. Next, we are going to install the HD drives. Our new double cage has enough room for 2 of them. A third one is placed in a smaller cage above. Each cage could house 2 SSDs alternatively. Also, the cages can be configured in 7 different positions. And if you don't use all of them, you can cover these holes with our slot covers, which double as useful tools for perfect cable management. One of our SSDs is already seated on the PSU shroud. Another one will be placed on the back side of the motherboard tray. Never forget, the SSD is placed on the outside of its case, not the inside. And the generous space in our flagship case leaves nothing to be desired. The case offers enough room for all building requirements, including several graphics cards and a water cooling system. In this case, our trusty silent loop 360mm, which is never going to suffer from claustrophobia.
Due to our very sophisticated interior layout, our very powerful system with an i7-7820X CPU and a GTX 1080 graphics card can be cranked up to 11 as every possible overclocking and water cooling requirement can be met. And the massive amount of space as well as the noise absorbing outlets guarantee an excellent airflow.
Now it's time for some illumination. The LED strips lead us to another one of Rev 2's improved features. The LEDs are now 12 volts compatible and can be controlled from as well as synchronized with the motherboard. If you are not interested in that, you can also simply switch their 6 default colors by using the button on top of the case. The LED system can be expanded with additional strips as well as directly from the controller. The fan control has also been upgraded. Now you can connect up to 8 PWM fans there and have them run in 2 different modes, silence or performance, due to the separated rails. We choose to run 2 near inaudible 140mm Silent Wings 3 fans in performance mode in front and the one in the back in silence, as we have the 3 fans on top of the radiator as additional outlets. Instead of a third fan, we are going to install a Blu-ray drive in the front so that we can use the PC as a full-fledged media system. And the final part now is the cable management.
Hi guys, my name is Boone. I'm the product designer here at Phanteks. You might have seen me before in another video where I introduced the Enthoo Primo case, which you can see over here. The Enthoo Primo might not be for everyone, and that's mainly due to its size and price. And that's why we started to work on two new cases that will appeal to the more mainstream users. These two cases will be part of the same case line, the Enthoo series. We tried to implement most of the rich features from the Enthoo Primo into a smaller case and position it into a lower price segment. Features such as being very versatile, having a spacious and clean interior, and of course making it very easy to install water cooling systems is what the Enthoo series is all about. So let me introduce to you the Enthoo Lux and the Enthoo Pro. First, let's start with the Enthoo Lux. The Enthoo Lux has some characteristics from the Primo. We've used the same materials such as aluminum and steel, and we tried to retain the same concept design of shifting the main form, but this time in a symmetric way. This allowed us to implement one of its features, the ambient light. The light is built inside of these gaps, so what you actually see now is the emitted glow. With a push of a switch, it's also possible to choose different colors. Inside you will also find a quite similar setup as the Primo. There is a closed hard drive panel to hide all the hard drives and SATA cables. This modular shroud covers the power supply and all the wires to make the interior look clean and stealthy. But unlike the Primo, we located a power supply in a horizontal orientation. And that's mainly because this was the only way we could reduce the dimension while fitting in an ATX or eATX motherboard. The Enthoo Lux is prepared for all-in-one and custom loop water cooling builds with multiple radiator configurations. You'll also find smart features from the Primo here, such as the pre-drilled mounting locations for reservoirs, a vibration damping bracket for water pumps, a fan hub with PWM control, and many more. This case here is the Enthoo Pro. Our main purpose when designing this case was to create this relatively low-priced case that offers relatively high value in return. You get the space, flexibility, and functions that you will normally find in a case from a higher price range.